All right, folks, continuing on with chapter 24, and we're talking now about some other things that you may want to have in your arsenal to help to promote yourself and make a professional appearance out there, things that will help you in establishing your voiceover identity. We'll take a look now at print materials. Now, here's something that has been kind of changing in the past 10 years or so when it comes to how voice actors market themselves. Once upon a time, we have said that it's kind of up to you whether or not you have photos of yourself out there, because especially if you're not looking to be on the screen, that, well, how important is it for someone to know what you look like? But these days, many times, you're finding that a lot of people are being used not just for voice acting, but that their likeness is being used as well. And because of the way that we connect with each other through online communication, well, quite honestly, the being able to put a face with a name is becoming more important as we go along. Again, it has really nothing to do with your performance, your ability to perform, but it's kind of the psychology of the world that we live in these days. So we're finding more and more talent agents and casting services now liking to have a visual association with the voice actor that they're working with. So what has caused overall people to be more interested in knowing what you look like? Well, the increased use of social media and its widespread use of imagery for networking and marketing is likely one of the reasons for this shift. Because of the nature of social media, where we tend to primarily use social media to connect with people that we know, family, friends, acquaintances, it's a much more personal sort of space. So it's kind of blurring that line between the personal world and the business world in many aspects. But because many aspects of social media are more visual, then, people like to see who it is that they're working with. Another reason may be the increased desire for a conversational delivery style, which again is more personal in scope. So the photo can give a talent buyer a better connection to the voice actor's performance. And then the third reason is, again, the aspect that you may find that a lot of voice actors are now also being asked to be on camera personalities. So headshots are going to be essential there. So ultimately, whether or not you decide to put your photo out there is up to you. If you do choose to use a photo as part of your packaging, hire a professional photographer who understands performance headshots to take the picture and make sure the photo reflects your money voice personality. It's not just about looking at your pretty face. It's trying to show through the photograph your personality, what it is you can do, letting that photo speak those 1,000 words, if you will, about your abilities to perform. Now, there's still some people out there that are real hesitant about using their photograph and prefer to use some sort of a splashy logo or something like that. Overall, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But again, we are finding more and more that people like to see the person that they're working with. It kind of has this sense of more intimacy, more authenticity. And that's just kind of the trend that is going on right now. Now, what about compact discs? This one is becoming a dinosaur of sorts. Now, there are still people out there that like to have the physical CD media. It's a challenge in part, though, because so there's some people that don't even own a CD player anymore. And there's also the fact that a lot of times in our personal computers, if you have a more modern computer, you might not have the ability to burn a CD unless you go out and you buy an accessory for your computer. However, it may not be such a thing that you want to completely write off the ability to have CDs. The possibility of having a few laying around might not be a bad idea. Now, if you do choose to put your demo on a CD, you could just take matters into your own hands, burn the CD at home using your computer, and you don't even need to have a slick CD cover on it anymore. Just make sure that your contact information is prominent on the CD. You can slip it into a CD sleeve. It's definitely going to be the more economical choice for people. But if you still like to have that element of splash, there's nothing wrong with having a CD label printed. And there's nothing wrong with even going out and having a few professionally burned CDs. But of course, that's going to be a bit of an investment for you to do that. Now, let's get to something a little more prominent in our culture, the website. Many voice talent have chosen to use their social media page, their pay-to-play profile page, or a free website design service as their primary marketing tool rather than creating a dedicated website. As many different tools that are available right now for people to build websites, it's still a really daunting task for many people. There's a little bit of a learning curve depending on the type of platform that you're using to build a website. Some of those things are not necessarily intuitive, and depending on how elaborate of a website you want, there are costs involved, not just with the domain registration and the web hosting, but the different types of add-ons and plugins that you may need in order to build the ideal website that you want. Now, the author goes on and says that to use some of the workarounds here might not be a great idea, and we'll follow his argument here. First off, social media websites. They have many distractions on the page, making it difficult for a potential client to quickly get the information that they are looking for. And there's also, by and large, no dedicated URL. Even if you're crafty enough to have facebook.com/your name. And if you're savvy enough to have your handle the same across all your different social media platforms, there's still the aspect that you're kind of using that particular platform as a crutch to put your material out there. And there's also the fact that many times with social media feeds these days, that unless the user goes in and intentionally chooses to always see content from a particular page, it's possible that you could put content out there and that the content is not seen by the people you want to see it. So you're running a risk if you're heavily relying on social media as your primary or sole voice on the internet. When you use a pay-to-play site and you tell clients to go there, well, you're basically giving them access to every other voice actor on that website. It's because, you're basically most likely going to have a rather vanilla page that is associated with that particular site. And from your page, they could very easily go start looking at other voice actors. There's very little opportunity for customization of the page on most of these different websites, so you can't really show your personality. So it's a kind of a dangerous thing to rely on there as well. Now, with free website design services, like if you're using yourname.wordpress.com or yourname.wix.com, The problem there is that, number one, you don't own the domain. And it's not necessarily seen as professional for someone to not just have their own domain. Why not go ahead and pay so many dollars a month for web hosting? And with the types of things that you can do on a website with the space they give you at the prices and things like that, it's not all that difficult to get away with paying as little as $5 a month, maybe $10 to $12 a month to have all the things that you would need a website to be able to do, to be able to just have your own hosting and your own domain. Now, you could just buy a domain and have it forwarded to one of these free websites, but that is a little clunky as well and is not ideal. But at the same time, if it's something where you're just trying to get yourself out there and perhaps you don't have the means to be able to fully go in putting together a full-blown professional website, it's not a bad place to start, because at the very least, with some of these free hosting sites, you at least control the content and you have a certain amount of control as to how that content looks. So it's a good starter, but if you are looking to be into voice acting for the long term, you're eventually going to want to look at your own website and your own domain. You need to remember that the purpose of a website is to market you as a voice actor. Flashy animation, glitzy graphics. Now, again, it's not to say that you don't want to be creative with the layout of the website. But if too much attention is paid to the look and the wow factor of the different plugins and all that sort of thing, and not enough attention is focused on telling about you, showcasing your demo, letting people hear you, then you're kind of defeating the purpose of having the website there, that it's just going to overshadow what it is that you're really there for, which is to have people hear you, learn about you, and hopefully hire you. Some website essentials. These are important considerations for when you do put your website together. One is that website address, the domain name, the URL. This is the name of your website. You want yours to be simple, short, and descriptive. I would say in most cases your name is going to suffice. If you have a rather complicated name to spell, or if perhaps you want to focus on some of your stronger traits in your abilities, then you may want to consider that as well when you're putting your domain name on. So maybe instead of fredbrucker.com, you would have charactersbyfred.com, or you would have fredsnarration.com or something like that. But you want it to be simple, easy to remember, doesn't take a ton of characters to type into the space for the URL. Keep it simple. Also, the FTP protocol, FIRE. Let's try that again. FTP, File Transfer Protocol. I speak for a living, folks. This is the means by which a website structure or file directory can be accessed online. It can also serve as a place to send, store, and receive files. So, depending on how many demos you have, how much extra content you want to be able to host on the website itself, whether it's numerous audio files, maybe some video files, certain types of graphics and that sort of thing. Most basic websites are going to give you an adequate amount of storage, but if you need a lot of that, you may want to consider upgrading to a larger package. And with FTP as well, it does offer the opportunity for you to be able to post things to your website that perhaps clients would be able to download. You can even give your clients access to the FTP to upload things for you in a secure manner. It's a nice little feature if you don't want to use something like a cloud service or you don't want to use email. Site design. Your website should be designed to reflect who you are and what you do. The way your website looks should be an extension of your personality and should shed a little bit of light into what sort of things that you are able to do. For example, if you are proficient at medical narration, you probably don't want a cartoonish looking website. You're going to want something that has a little bit of structure to it, is able to showcase your medical knowledge and have that sort of clean look to it that you would expect from doctors, from medical centers and things like that. Know your audience. Also, email. If you have a domain for your website, you most likely also have your own domain for email. But at the very least, you should look into having that for your email address. It makes you come off that much more professional instead of having a Gmail address or a Yahoo address or something like that. Make sure your website tells your story. Your website is the perfect place to let prospects know who you are, who you've worked for, and what you can do for them. And again, it doesn't have to be an elaborate website with multiple pages, and it doesn't have to have a lot of effects and things like that, but if it's nice and clean, easy to navigate through, even a well-done one-page website will help to get you out there. And then, of course, you want to be able to post your demos on your website. And you have a few options to be able to do this. You could upload the MP3 file directly onto your website, let people click on it and download it. A lot of different platforms will allow you to turn that audio file into an embedded media player on your website, or perhaps you would utilize some sort of podcasting service to link to allow people to click on and listen to something through there. Services like SoundCloud are also very popular for this sort of thing. Finally, again, let's talk about photos. If you do have photos of yourself, you do want to make sure that they're professionally done. As far as other photographs and pictures that you use on your website, not a bad idea to include photographs in different news releases and things. If you've won awards, if you've worked with particular companies, if you have permission to use logos of different companies that you've worked for, that helps to add to your credibility. These are all considered things that are ways to help you to be able to make you stand out, to say, look at what I have done, and I could do the same thing for you. It helps to lend credibility to yourself as a professional voice actor. So that's going to do it for chapter 24. Look at the notes, the study questions, get them turned in, and be prepared for when we get together for class to discuss the chapter. Bring your questions, bring your comments. I'd like to know what you think, and we'll discuss those things when we get together.